The story begins when the sky unleashed a storm of golden lightning that fell on the city of Linai, in the Dragon Kingdom. Suddenly, a swarm of monsters slipped in from another world, bringing with them the greatest calamity humanity had ever faced. But as always, fate does not abandon its people. On the hand of each human appeared a mysterious mark, and through it they awoke to new unique occupations. Thus, humanity entered a new era where changing occupation to become a hunter became a necessity. Among the millions who awakened, only 3 individuals achieved mythical classes on par: a ghost sword wielder from the United States Krastiv, an infernal dragon rider from Russia, and the fictional Kong, the ice wizard king from the Frost Nation. These mythical occupations, more powerful than the others, propelled their respective countries to conquer others at an unprecedented rate. 100 years ago, a similar prodigy emerged in the Dragon Kingdom known as Azura. In just 10 years he achieved the highest record ever reached in China, being the first to surpass the world's 70. However, when the 9th strongest wave of monsters invaded Earth, Azura, who had changed classes 8 times, died defending the rift and sacrificing herself for the kingdom. Now, 100 years after his death, an anniversary was being celebrated in his honor in the capital of the Dragon Kingdom. All the elite hunters gathered for the event. Records showed that year the kingdom had 12,350,000 awakened, 11.3% more than the previous year, and the highest figure since the arrival of the other world 10 years ago. With 10% of these becoming prime hunters, they vastly surpassed the Azure Age numbers. Hoping to witness the emergence of a new Azura. In a bare room, a man lay on the floor. He listened to the news about the imminent opening of the main gate to the other world, where hunters were urged to prepare. He looked like a lost soul with a bottle of pills beside him. Suddenly, upon hearing about the preparation for the opening, his countenance changed radically. He sat up suddenly, as if he were someone else, and looked around in confusion, as if he didn't know where his head was. It hurt intensely, and fragments of painful memories began to emerge of grueling work, being called useless, being unable to pay his brother's medical bills, and complaints about being a monster tamer in a poor family. With all this accumulated, he had decided to end his life by taking an overdose of pills. But now, confused, he wondered whose memories they were. He never imagined that he would be reincarnated in the body of someone with the same name as himself. 100 years in the future, he remembered that this man was a monster tamer. Being a monster tamer meant relying on your pets to fight, but it also involved an astronomical investment in their development, something unattainable for the average person. Now he knew the story of young Sanchu, a failure who decided to end his life. But the man who now inhabited that body was very different. In his previous life, it was the strongest awakening in the Dragon Kingdom, known as Azure. Having taken control of this new body and returned to life, he decided to take on Sanju's responsibilities and regrets with the firm resolve to conquer the other world, where the weak were at the mercy of the strong. It was his way of showing gratitude for this second chance. Suddenly, once again, the opening of the door to the other world was announced. The man got up and headed for the door. Opening it, a ring of bright light appeared. It was the space gate. He entered without hesitation. The system received it as Azura and reported that it had been offline for 36,552 days. As several screens emerged around him, he was notified that he had received skill power points equivalent to 22,16664 pesos with 96 cents. The system congratulated him for being the first to defeat a wave of 9th rank monsters, and for completing a mythic class achievement. As a reward he received a treasure of mythical rank, the Supreme Divine Decree, which was activated automatically. He also obtained a permanent 1,000-fold increase in obtaining ability power in the other world, both online and offline. In addition, he was awarded additional rewards for his offline time, accumulating a total of 21,000 or 1.3893503 skill points. Surprised, he saw that he had quadrillions of skill power points, a generous reward for overcoming the wave of highest-ranked monsters in the world. The system also notified him that he had obtained a class reset, and was asked to choose from one of the 7 main mythic classes: Undead Knight, Dark Swordsman Warrior, Assassin, Shadow Reaper, Priest, Divine Priest Mage, Hellfire Mage, Archer, Ghost Hunter, Monster Tamer, Necromancer. In her previous life, Azura had awakened as an epic class warrior. However, the most powerful class in the other world at that time were Monster Tamers, although their development was extremely difficult due to the immense amount of ability power required for their growth. But now, having incarnated him and with 1,000 years of accumulated ability power, his natural choice was Necromancer. The system congratulated him on becoming the 4th mythical rank hunter in the Otherworld. With the Necromancer class, the Advanced Monster Tamer class received an initial rating of 100 stars, as powerful as expected from a mythical class. A Necromancer is a resurrected messenger from the Underworld with the ability to command the power of the dead. Only death can thrill a Necromancer. The Necromancer class had 25-star magic attack growth, 18-star mana growth, 20-star vitality growth, 18-star physical defense growth, and 19-star magic defense growth. Among his abilities were soul harvesting, spectral evolution, and death reduction. Unlike common monster tamers, whose pets could only improve their intellect through rare quest rewards, it was impossible to improve their character. Asura didn't expect that a necromancer could not only evolve his pets, but also harvest other monsters and turn them into his own creatures. Just as expected of a mythical class in his previous life. With an epic class, he had managed to overcome 70 worlds in just 10 years, and become the top ranked in China. Now, starting with a mythical class, he decided to overcome each world to perfection, and become the strongest not only in China, but in the whole world. The sun rose and Asura entered a portal that took him to the first world of the Otherworld, the source of nightmares. The system matched him with a safe zone called Doomsday Town. Asked if he would continue using the Asura name, or if he wanted to confirm one new one, he decided to change his name. Asura was determined that in this new life he would surpass Asura's existence, and the only thing that surpasses everything else is zero. He walked through the Otherworld while a woman marveled at how real he felt. Another man, confused, commented that they expected the Otherworld to be full of monsters. Another man replied that they were in the safe zone and that the monsters were outside it. Then they received notification that the world's first mission had been released. It was on the mission panel. In a world where darkness has begun to envelop the earth, hunters and adventurers prepare to confront the source of nightmares. The system window shows details of the first world, the origin of calamities. When darkness covers the land, the monsters that slept deep beneath the surface awaken, threatening to plunge the world into inevitable ruin. However, there is one hope: Cyrus, the sole survivor, who must break the pattern of the apocalypse, defeat the multiple calamities, and crush the darkness. Cairo's initial mission is clear: he must kill a total of 1,000 monsters in the first world, and collect 10 silver coins, either by killing monsters or completing missions. Only then will he be able to activate the instant teleportation tunnel to the first world boss, defeat him, and advance to the second world. Before embarking on these missions, Cyrus decides to equip himself properly by entering an equipment store. He is greeted by Chelsea, the store owner. The store only offers basic raw items, being the best equipment available a single star. Chelsea offers Zyro the chance to get a higher grade equipment for a few extra copper coins. Cyrus, without hesitation, drops a bag with 100 copper coins, and asks for a magic 1-star wand. The other buyers are stunned. After all, they had only received a total of 100 copper coins, and Cyrus had spent them all on one item. Despite the advice of other hunters, who suggest that it would have been wiser to buy a full set of basic equipment, Cyrus goes ahead. The others murmur among themselves, considering that Cyrus is doomed to suffer, since he has spent all his money and lacks defensive power. However, for Cyrus the true power lies in his ability to refine his equipment. Cyrus's staff, called Ligging Inferno Magic Staff, has a star and magical power of 5.1. A huge amount of skill points at its disposal. Cyrus begins to refine his staff, ignoring the low odds of success. After 132 refinements and a total expenditure of 985 skill points, the system informs you that your team has reached the maximum level, transforming into the Scorching Pioneer Magic Staff with the special attribute score, which inflicts a burn state on the enemy, causing a loss of 20 health per second. Now Cyrus is ready to face the horrors of the first world, where monsters like giant mutated rats, poisonous spiders, armored scorpions, and enraged wild boars wait to challenge him. Normal hunters would take on these monsters as a team, but Siru with his maxed equipment and mythic abilities ventures alone. News of his power spreads quickly among the other hunters, who watch him with wonder and speculation. Some see him as a great experienced hunter, while others can't believe someone has accumulated so many skill points at such an early stage in the game. Cyrus, however, is clear that low-level monsters do not provide him with enough experience. His goal is to maximize his experience gain by facing higher-level monsters, so he decides to head to the abandoned factory where higher-level creatures are hiding. Although the hunters try to recruit him into their party, offering them roles as healer, tank, IDPS, as well as hints of other kinds, Zero stands firm in his decision to fight only with his magic staff and the new medium fire ability, which he has developed after spending 50 skill points. Zero steps into the darkness, ready to show the true power of a mythical hunter. It had reached a level of power few could have imagined in such a short time. His Ultra Fireball ability had improved considerably, increasing his damage by 140% and gaining a special effect that increased burn damage by 6% every second. Satisfied with the power he had obtained, he decided to continue improving his technique. Eventually the ability was transformed into Ultra Fireball, reaching the highest possible degree for its current class. In order to improve her even further, she would need to make her second class change. At that rate of progress, Zero was sure he could reach level 8. Once the missions of the first 2 worlds are completed, that level would be enough to face the final boss of the first world, and complete the first cleanup of the world. As he made his way down a dark corridor, a noise stopped him dead in his tracks. A groan from behind a large door caught his attention cautiously. Zero asked if anyone was there. Opening the door, he found a hunter with his leg amputated. The man, named Carl, had lost his family to the monsters. Desperate, he begged Zero to help him avenge the death of his wife and children by exterminating the hateful scorpions. The system notified Zero that a history mission had been activated. I would accept the exterminate the scorpions mission. When evaluating the rewards, Zero saw that the equipment obtained by completing the NPS missions was much better than those obtained by killing monsters. With only his wand, the mission seemed worthwhile. The system showed him the details. He had to exterminate all the scorpions and eliminate the leader, the armored king scorpion. The reward would be 501 silver coin and 300 random 1-star equipment. As he advanced on mission 0, he felt something move in the darkness, although he could not see anything. He realized that not only were there monsters there, but his priority was to complete the mission. Several eyes watched him from the shadows. Finally the armored scorpions appeared. They were level 5 monsters, mutated by environmental pollution. Their bodies were covered in solid armor that allowed them to withstand a large amount of damage. When they activated the guard ability, the effectiveness of Zero's attacks decreased. However, he was ready. His cane began to glow and he launched his Ultra Fireball. The scorpions activated their charge ability, but the attack dodged and prepared another burst of magic, enveloping the area in flames. The system notified him that he had defeated a level 5 armored scorpion, gaining 115 EXP and 50,000 skill points. Despite the power of his Ultra Fireball, the mana consumption was considerable. Zero remembered that when the number of armored scorpions decreased below a certain threshold, the appearance of the king armored scorpion was unleashed much earlier, and so it was, the gigantic and menacing monster finally appeared. Zero planned to finish him off before he ran out of mana, launched his Ultra Fireball. But the Scorpion King deflected it with his tail, having little or no effect. He knew the monster was as strong and tough as the Scorpion King remembered. He charged at it, but Zero moved quickly to one side and attacked from another angle, burning the monster with another burst of fire. Even though he was close to finishing off the Scorpion King, 2 figures emerged from the shadows. One of them, with their sword ready, tried to stab the Scorpion's claw to steal the final blow. Zero, anticipating his plan, stopped him, and revealed that he knew they were there. The hunters were surprised to realize that Zero had been aware of their intentions. He knew from the beginning that some hunters were in the business of leveling up, honestly, but also, that others specialized in the shady business of killing and stealing from others. Without hesitation, Zero unleashed his power, and an image of a man appeared behind him scaring the evil hunter. Without hesitation, he flung it away with his fire. The evil hunter's companion was stunned. He had thought Zero had run out of mana. But the reality was different. Zero had pretended to make them reveal a purple flame. He appeared over the golden flames. The system congratulated Zero for activating the Necromancer class ability called Soul Harvest. While killing the Scorpion King, he was asked if he wished to absorb the armored Scorpion King as his pet. Grateful for the good fortune of activating the class so quickly, Zero absorbed it. The specks of golden flame fell to the ground and turned into a dark violet flame under his feet, which headed towards the enemy. The system informed Zero that he had obtained the armored Scorpion King as his pet, and that he was intimidating the enemy. The effects of the Necromancer class were activated, and the loyalty of your new pet was maximized. Zero knew that one of the challenges for monster tamers was that pets needed to use the Tamer's X to level up, which made the growth process extremely expensive. But for Zero, EXF points weren't an issue, so he decided to use them to upgrade his pet to max level. The armored Scorpion King's guard ability, which was at rank D, was upgraded to passive ability. Ranged iron body reduced damage taken by 30%. The remaining hunter, trembling, asked who Zero really was. It was impossible for an ordinary monster tamer to be this strong. Zero revealed that since taking on the mission he had felt someone was spying on him. He assumed that they were assassins who used invisibility to hide and attack lone players when they received the mission at the same time. They planned to ambush him in the final stage and stay with the Scorpion King. The hunter knew he had offended the wrong person. He tried to flee, but Zero challenged him to show his strength in the blink of an eye. The armored Scorpion King punched him in the stomach. The hunter begged for his life, but Zero replied that in a world where the weak are meat for the strong, if one wishes to devour others, he must be prepared to be devoured. With that, the hunter lost his life while being devoured by the scorpion. Afterwards, the NPSKL thanked Zero for helping him in his revenge and considered him their partner. The system congratulated Zero for completing the mission, awarding him 500 EX points, a silver coin, and 3,000 skill points. He also received a magic necklace and armor boots. Zero went up to level 4 and only needed 2,000 EX points for the next level. He decided to review the equipment obtained. The magic necklace was level 4.1 stars, and it was said in legends that it was made of pure magic, granting an immense amount of mana to whoever used it. Level 5 and 1-star armor boots provided solid defense for hunters. He told himself that the equipment he had received was perfectly aligned with his needs. Now, with his hand reinforced, he was ready to face whatever challenge the first world threw at him. The object was refined to the maximum using a total of 24,999 points to obtain the golden attribute equipment, the sacred origin of magic. He then spent 2985 skill points and received the hero's protective armor. With these two pieces of equipment, both the armored Scorpion King and the would reach level 5 faster. Suddenly, a screen appeared in front of him with a zone announcement. All hunters in the Apocalypse Villa were informed that the hidden dungeon, the level 5 Apocalypse City, had appeared near the villa. The dungeon would remain open for 1 hour and all hunters were advised to head towards it to complete the mission. The first to clear the dungeon would receive a generous reward. The hunters were surprised to hear about the hidden level 5 dungeon, but Zero knew that with his current strength, it was not impossible to be the first to clear it. He decided to go for it. The portal had already appeared and everyone was preparing to recruit members for their teams. Most tried to clear it first for the rewards. One man explained that, given his current level, entering the dungeon would be tantamount to suicide. They might make money, but they wouldn't be alive to spend it. He insisted that was why they should form a team. It was obvious that there were a good number of people who wanted to challenge the dungeon. Suddenly, someone pushed him. He was a knight in shining gold armor. Someone called him president. People wondered who he was. He was Liu Zhao, the son of the richest person in the city, Linai Liu Yu. The 3 largest pharmacies in the city belonged to the Liu family, with a fortune of billions of dollars. Young Master Liu had always been pompous, and even his subordinates were fully equipped with 1-star armor that cost at least tens of thousands. A woman noticed Sang Yu. She was Julianju's ex-girlfriend. He approached him and ridiculed him for being a simple monster tamer who couldn't even pay his own rent, and who was still thinking about fighting in Dungeon Zero. He fiercely asked him if he had any problem with that. She was surprised that she expected him to beg for another chance, like the sim he used to do. Then Lianju clung to Zhao and told Zhu that only Zhu was qualified to be the first to clear the unique dungeons, so he should stop daydreaming. Zhou hugged Zhou and mocked Zhou for being abandoned, advising him to just move on. Zhou replied nonchalantly that she was just a pair of used shoes and that Zhou could keep the rubbish. As for the single dungeon, he sensed that someone else was having delusional thoughts. That infuriated Zhou, who demanded Zhou teach him a lesson, but instead of fearing, our boy smiled and advised them to value their lives more. Zhou screamed that he was just acting tough, when he was really worthless. Zhu, surprised, couldn't see Zero's class clearly as if it was intentionally hidden. In a hurry to defy the dungeon, Zhu and his team headed for the portal, reminding them to bring their resurrection scrolls. A man approached Zero and told him to admit defeat, since losers like him couldn't beat those with silver spoons. Zero replied that if he considered himself a loser, he should think of ways to improve and become stronger in his mind. Zero thought about the original owner of his body and knew that he had indeed been a loser. He argued that that had nothing to do with him, since he was now Asura. The man replied that Zero was good at bragging, and added that all those men had a resurrection scroll that cost 3,000 pesos each. People expected the Supreme Guild to be the first to clear the dungeon. Zero knew that most dungeons had a monster or boss guarding it. His current strength was more than enough to deal with normal maps, but he feared it wouldn't be enough to face the monster or boss. I could only guarantee a victory like this. Both the Armored Scorpion King and the Armored Scorpion King rose to level 5 and were equipped with proper equipment and skills at the highest level. Meanwhile, Joe and the others appeared on the other side of the portal. Joel complained of having been completely humiliated, but he had not yet sought revenge for her. Joe stared at her and told her that there were a lot of people, and that the losses exceeded the gains, and someone was using as an excuse that Yao had killed a hunter to defame the family. The Liu and the guild assured her that they would make that guy kneel before her. Joel thanked him. So in another scene an explosion of fire broke out. Zero was fighting the monsters. A normal monster tamer's pet needs the same amount of experience points as their master. Fortunately, the amount of experience points needed for the pet in the necromancer class is cut in half. At first, Zero had to let the Armored Scorpion King kill some more normal people, so he could level up. Quickly Zero continued to fight. The area was full of smoke. From behind a rock on Kidaya was watching Zero, realizing he had been underestimated. As Zero advanced, a beautiful woman blocked him, trying to seduce him into taking her. But Zero was not a simple one, and he simply replied that he was not joking and moved on. The system informed everyone that there were only 10 minutes left. Zero decided to increase the defense of the level 5 Armored Scorpion King, who would act as a flesh shield in the vanguard while Zero focused on doing damage from the rear. The Armored Scorpion King roared loudly. Zero also uses equipment that accelerated mana recovery to help him throw consecutive fireballs, and increase his efficiency when killing monsters. With all that, 10 minutes was more than enough. Zero entered the portal, the area was engulfed in Jaw flames and the others were injured. Jaw complained that they were only a little short of defeating the boss, but his subordinate explained that they had no chance against level 7 monsters when they were only at level 2. Yu told Zhao that since the monsters were too powerful, they should focus on surviving. The subordinate agreed with her and suggested taking the opportunity to use the resurrection scroll and leave before the monsters had reached them. Zhao felt someone approaching. They all looked towards the cliff where a man was standing and were surprised to see that it was Zero. Zhao, furious, asked him if he was not afraid of dying. Zero smiled at him disdainfully, prompting Zhao to challenge him to a fight. Joe and the subordinate tried to stop him, emphasizing that survival came first. Before he left, Joe told Zero that it would be better for him to die in the dungeon, rather than for Joe to kill him. The system welcomed Zero into the dungeon, where his mission was to kill the dungeon's keeper, the leader Armored Scorpion, a level 7 boss monster. Zero was relieved they were gone, since he wouldn't be bothered by the noise. Now, a few moments later, the ground cracked and the chief monster emerged from below, roaring loudly. Zero noticed that the boss's health bar alone was several times stronger than the minions. He instructed his pet to attack the two scorpions fought each other. Zero was pleased with his pet's improvements, then used his Fire Ultra Ball, which dealt 206 critical damage. The big boss monster was in front of him, he attacked, but his pet protected him. Zero created several fireballs and fired a 6-fold shot. The head monster's face was slightly burned. Zero attacked from the front, while his pet held the body of the boss monster. The enemy roared. It was the last roar before his body collapsed to the ground. Zero commented that the system screen was weak, showing that he had cleared the level 5 dungeon, Apocalyptic City, and that he had obtained the dungeon scroll as a reward. People were surprised by this announcement. In the virtual world, rumors flew as fast as the flames of a fire. Everyone wondered who this Zero was and how he had managed to defeat the Dungeon Guardian monster, when almost everyone was barely at levels 1 to 3, while the creature was at level 7. Joe, always looking for dramatic explanations, hinted that Zero could be Your's ex-boyfriend, but Joe, with an incredulous laugh, refuted the idea immediately. My ex, please, he doesn't even have a pet, there's no way he could clean that dungeon alone, she said, sure that someone else must have done the job. Joe, however, was convinced that someone extraordinary was responsible. With a blow of his sword on the ground, he ordered his subordinates to find this Zero and recruit him as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Zero wasn't for nonsense. He knew that the items that dungeon bosses dropped were far more valuable than those of ordinary monsters: copper coins, plans, even equipment. But the most important thing was a scroll. An unupgradable dungeon scroll was worth a lot of money, and Zero decided to take his to the highest level. He knew that a dungeon scroll of challenging rank had never appeared in the first world, and if he put it on the market it would be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But he wasn't interested in money. His goal was to clean up that other world. A notification window told him that he had used a level 5 and challenging rank dungeon scroll. He received a gold coin and a reward mission: rescue a survivor. By completing the mission within the time limit, you would receive a generous reward. He was reviewed by the mission and found to have a difficulty rating of 100, and an unknown reward, that only required escorting one NPC, also received a level 10 map, even though he was barely at level 5. The monsters that wild boars would face tended to appear in groups, which would make them difficult to deal with. He decided not to worry and focused on finding the alien survivor. In the middle of the forest, a girl was being chased by a wild boar. Suddenly the boar burst into flames. Slowly the smoke cleared and revealed Zero. The girl, relieved, was glad that an older brother came to save her. A notification appeared: survivor of alien found. There were 10 hours left to complete the mission. A wild boar appeared enraged. Zero felt the boars in the forest stir as soon as he found Aelin. The boar attacked them and Zero threw a fireball. Although the boar was still receiving burn damage, more boars surrounded them. Zero commented that those boars had a lot of stamina. Not even a mythic rank hunter with a golden staff and an A-rank fireball could do him enough damage. If Aelin died, Zero would fail the mission, so he called his armored scorpion and ordered him to protect him. The boars charged in groups, but the armored scorpion blocked their attacks. Zero launched an ultra fireball that landed on a boar. The system notified him that he had defeated a level 10 frenzied wild boar, gaining 40 experience points and 100,000 skill points. Zero informed the armored scorpion that his strategy was working and encouraged him to resist a little longer, as they would soon level up. Cyrus kept defeating boars one after another, but the boars kept coming and Zero didn't have enough mana to resist the wave. There he asked her if she was okay, to which Zero assured her that he would definitely take her back. Suddenly, a boar attacked him. Zero responded with an ultra fireball that roasted the boar, but it still managed to resist the ability. Fortunately, Zero had some health, otherwise he would have died with a single blow from the boar. He also sensed that the armored scorpion couldn't hold much longer. Zero did not expect this mission to be so annoying. He attacked the boar, causing his HP to decrease. At the same time, the system notified him that he had risen to level 7. Due to the situation, he decided to improve his attack power first. In addition, he used the equipment obtained from defeating scorpions, formerly a level 7 glorious boss battle ring that had a penetration effect, meaning that attacks from someone with this equipped item ignored 20% of the opponent's defense. Once again, Zero threw a fireball, but this time it was more powerful, almost looking like a ball of energy. Enveloped in flames, the fireball killed the boar instantly. Zero was astonished. I used to need to throw 80 fireballs to do damage, but now I could kill with just 2. After an exhausted Zero time, he finally managed to get rid of the wave of boars. Now he only needed to get Helena to the Doomsday People to complete the mission. Suddenly someone appeared, and was surprised to see Zero return from the dungeon alive. It was Luju, that loser, accompanied by Joel. Zero chased them away without wanting to waste time with little idiots. Joe was Boa Joe. Asking him to teach Zero a lesson, Joe drew his sword, challenging Zero East, with a smile, asked if Joe really believed he could kill him. Joe lunged forward, wanting to see if Zero's mouth was sharper than his sword. Joe's blade struck Zero's shoulder, but it didn't penetrate. Joe couldn't believe it, and neither could Joer, since Joe couldn't hurt Zero even though Zero was just an unarmed beast tamer. Zero, impatient, asked him if he was done because now it was his turn. He showed his power by releasing a whirlwind of flame. Seeing this, Joe panicked and threatened Zero, warning him that he came from a powerful family and that if he hurt him he would regret it, but Zero didn't mind the threats. He threw his fireball and Chao was sent flying. Chao, surprised at how he had ended up in that state with a single blow, disintegrated, leaving his golden armor behind. Zero, looking at the screen, called Zhao an idiot in that other world. A hunter's name is usually white, though. When a hunter launches a malicious surprise attack against another hunter with a white name, the attacker's name turns gray for a short time. During that time, the victim's retaliation is considered an act of defense and receives no evil value. If the victim fails to defend himself and is killed, the attacker's name turns red and gains evil value. According to the rules of the other world, the attacker will not be able to disconnect even if he enters a safe area until he has killed enough monsters to clear their evil value or awaited his death. When a hunter dies, they not only lose levels and experience points, but they also drop a large amount of their equipment and items. Joel gasped as Zero had killed Jaw with one blow. He wondered when he had become so powerful. He panicked when he saw Zero approaching, especially since he couldn't use the resurrection scroll, as it can only be used twice in a 7-day period. I had already used one to escape the dungeon, and if I used another one now, I couldn't use it again later. Frightened, she tried to persuade him with sweet words, but Zero and Aylin passed by, ignoring her. Since Juar had not attacked him, Zero could not harm him without receiving consequences. He decided not to waste time with insignificant people. Enraged, Juar watched them walk away. How dare Zero ignore her? Moments later, in a house, Aylin thanked Zero for bringing her back safely. The system congratulated Zero for completing the challenging rank mission, Rescue the Survivor. Zero received an ice magic staff, a skill book called Little Icicle, and a pet egg. Zero had managed to level up, increasing his vitality by 30 points, adding 12 points, and obtaining 6 points of free attributes to distribute now with level 8. He needed 9,500 experience points to level up again, which seemed like a Herculean task, but Zero was ready for the challenge. He decided to take advantage of his new strength and summoned the magic staff he had obtained from a level 8.1 ice staff, incredibly strong affinity for the power of ice. Since he had almost infinite skill points, Zero decided to refine the staff, reaching the maximum allowed of 144 refinements. In total I used 322356 skill points, turning the equipment into a center with a golden attribute, the Frost Chattered Scepter. How senior was the grade of the team? More skill points were required for its refinement, but that didn't pose a problem for Zero. In addition to the cane, Zero also obtained other loot, including a normal grade pet egg. He wasn't too excited about it, since he'd gotten quite a few of these eggs while hunting monsters. He decided to use all the eggs as food for his armored scorpion. The scorpion seemed delighted with the idea, and after consuming the eggs, the system congratulated him. His pet had evolved into an elite-grade silver armored scorpion. The new version of the scorpion looked imposing with his silver body, and Zero was quite pleased with his 2-star magic staff and silver armored scorpion. With the golden team already behind him, Zero felt ready to face the final boss of the first world. Before that though, I needed to replenish some materials. He stepped out of the portal and it was night. He was back in his room when his phone rang. It was a call related to the $390,000 he owed for his brother's medical bills. If I didn't pay the hospital, I'd stop the treatment. Our protagonist, now more determined than ever, asked for the hospital's account number, assuring that he would transfer the money in 10 minutes. It wasn't a big deal for him, as he could sell a few pieces of his golden gear and make millions. He planned to help the original owner of the body save his brother as a way to return the favor to the old you, but he suddenly received a warning from the system. The equipment was tied and could not be traded or dropped. He was puzzled. This was a drawback of the 10,000-fold power increase without the ability to trade. His equipment was only a little over 10,000 pesos, even if he sold all his silver coins. This situation pushed him to think about alternative ways to make money. He looked at his cell phone and looked for options. He found that the pay for normal booster services was too low for his liking. However, he did find something interesting, an ad that hired a reinforcer for 300,000 gold. Many users were interested in the ad. I contacted the advertiser and with a somewhat sinister smile he was intrigued by the possibility of accepting the deadly reward. Luz sat in front of multiple computer screens while talking on the phone with a girl on the other side. She explained to him the specific requirements for the 300,000 win reward for training on the forum. The first condition was to be a newly certified professional this year and the second to guide a designated person through the first world. Then, confidently, he replied that there would be no problem, whether in the first world or the second. The girl interrupted him while he asked for 300,000 and offered him 400,000 if he completed the task. The intrigued asked when it would begin, and she told him that in 10 minutes someone would be waiting for him at the resurrection fountain in the city of the apocalypse. Seeing it a great opportunity, he headed to the place thinking that earning 400,000 just for accompanying someone was an excellent deal. As I reach the resurrection fountain, I notice a hooded woman approaching while others watch from a distance. The curious thing is, he asked if she was the person he should train, to which the woman nodded when listening to the comments of the audience. They called her the Magician of Misfortune. He decided to ignore the murmurs and concentrate on the mission. Lola explained to her new partner that to overcome the first world they needed to complete 2 previous tasks, defeat 1,000 monsters and collect 10 coins. However, I noticed that the woman seemed confused and explained to him that pros cannot deal mandatory damage to monsters that are 5 levels above them. Then, seeing that she was only at level 1, he decided to help her level up. He then used his staff to cast an ice ability at a monster, freezing it instantly. Although the ability was not as strong as the fireball, it was useful as a control ability. Then he encouraged the girl to finish off the enemy. She, somewhat puzzled, followed Louis' instructions, who analyzed a spell surrounded by a purple glow. With a powerful explosion, it disintegrated the frozen monster into pieces. The girl was surprised to see multiple system windows congratulating her for leveling up 3 times in a row. However, while she was absorbed in the notifications, a monster approached to attack her. Then, with quick reflexes, he pushed it away just in time, and threw a fireball to defeat the monster. Although the girl looked at him with admiration, then she noticed his emotions and asked him to prepare for the next leveling point. Then, who was more focused on the 400,000 yuan reward, asked him his age. As they walked, she held up her fingers indicating that she was 21 years old. Then, somewhat surprised, he told her that most people awaken their profession at the age of 18, and should have entered the other world 3 years ago, so he didn't understand why his level was so low. Suddenly the girl stopped and took off her hood, thanking him for helping her level up and telling him she could go. Now, as compensation, he offered her 10,000 yuan, asking her not to tell her sister anything. Then, surprised, he commented that he thought she couldn't talk, but then he reassured her by assuring her that as he had promised his sister, he would help her overcome the first world. The girl, scared, told him that it was the body of misfortune, and that if they stayed together, it would only bring him trouble. Then, curious, he asked her what it really meant to be the body of misfortune. The panicked girl explained to him that he was like a master of evil, someone who brings misfortune to others. At that point, a group of players showed up and stated that the forum said that anyone who took the mission with her was doomed to die, but that whoever killed her would gain a lot of experience and supernatural powers. One of them said they should administer justice and attack. The girl, fearing for Lu's safety, asked him to leave while he could. Lu, determined not to lose his reward of 400,000 yuan, summoned his cane and prepared to face the group. But just before the fight began, a voice interrupted, pointing out that it was going to be an exciting fight. It was Lu Zhao and his guild who arrived with the confidence of experienced warriors. The leader of the other group, seeing Lu Zhao, was cautious, recognizing that they could not compete with them. Lu Zhao, with an arrogant smile, approached the boy and provoked him, but then, unflinching, responded sarcastically, reminding him that he couldn't use his resurrection scroll for another 7 days. Lu Zhao, smiling, ordered his team to attack, and his guild prepared for confrontation, ready to eliminate the Luoi girl. But a woman's profile appeared. Her name was Her Yan, and she was at level 1. Other than that, everything else about her was unknown. Chu looked serious, which puzzled Zhao, who didn't understand why he was reacting that way. He noticed that his people were just standing behind him, so he hit them on the head, asking if they didn't understand his instructions. One of his subordinates responded that they were already used to it. Then they surrounded Yu, and Yang Chu watched every one of his movements. Suddenly, everyone took out gifts and asked Chu to reconsider. Jean was very confused, and so was Chu. She asked Zhou what his intention was. In doing that, Zhou told him to shut up and approach Zhu, but kept a safe distance, hiding behind one of his men. She told Zhu that she understood that he wasn't afraid to use brute force like he was, but that she didn't want to resort to that. Therefore, Yao had specially arranged for his men to carefully choose the super rare treasures for Zhu. You could have them all on the condition that he joined his guild and worked for him, and he would also pay him 50,000 pesos a month. Zhou commented that for a poor man like Zhou's offer was something he could not achieve even in 10 years of hard work. He suggested that I join Zhou's guild. In Zhou's mind, he hoped Zhou would be delighted that she would help him persuade Zhou to join the guild, and once I joined, he planned to teach him a lesson. Joe replied that he only admired those who were stronger than himself. He suggested that Zhao should use force and thus consider his offer. Joel got angry and emphasized that 50,000 pesos was more than I could earn in 1 year, so he had no right to reject Zhao's offer. Zhao expressed that really birds of the same plumage fly together. She asked Joel if she really believed that everyone would choose to stop being human and become dogs like her. Zhao asked if they were going to fight, otherwise they should get out of his way. Joel, I'm asking if they were going to fight. Zhu ordered. Zhu let go. Zhouer could not accept his decision and asked him why when Zhu looked over his shoulder. Zhu, now angry, repeated that they should leave Zhouer. Zhouer decided to back off. They watched Zhu and Jin walk away. One of Zhu's subordinates expressed that his boss was generous in letting Zhu go when Zhou had tried to kill him earlier. The subordinate insisted that Zhu should have killed the guy. That talker met Zhu's fist. Then Zhou expressed that the best things are out of reach, that things that are easily obtained are never valuable. Zhou clung to him and asked him when he said he wanted to kill Zhou at all costs. He asked him. When he changed his mind, Zhou responded that it happened after Zhou killed him. Last time, Zhou grabbed Zhou's jaw showing that he was holding back his anger, while mentioning what Zhou had said before, that Zhou's poor family couldn't afford gold equipment. But it was an enigma, how a normal monster continued to cause so much damage. Chao knew there was more than meets the eye, that's why he wanted Chu to work for him. Joel gritted his teeth inside, insisted that Zhu was nothing more than a poor peasant and that one day he would make him beg at his feet. It was late at night. Jean thanked Zhu for protecting her. Zhu responded that it was nothing, otherwise, he would lose his 400,000 pesos and she would die, and that would not be a good way to end the day. Jean approached him and suggested that they leave him, since he thought I could not complete the mission. I asked him why he had posted the reward on the forum. If I didn't have confidence. He added that she might have just given up, but why did she enter the other world? Jean replied that he had quit a long time ago and that it was his sister's doing. He emphasized that he was the embodiment of calamity and showed him something as proof of the system window. He showed that his special class was magical, calamitous. With her calamitous body she couldn't kill monsters by herself. Instead, he should team up with others and share the burden of calamity with his partner. In that situation, her and her partner's lives were connected. If either of them died, they would both die and the level would immediately return to zero. If they separated halfway, the level would return to zero, but the partner would not receive any penalty. When a calamitous wizard overcame the first world with a calamitous body, the player and his partner, who had destroyed the calamitous body, would receive a large amount of experience inside it. I was surprised to learn that she was a special class hunter. He had just discovered that in addition to middle-class hunters and their class hunters, there were also special class hunters. As long as they overcame the limitations of their class, there was a high probability that a high-ranking class would emerge. It could be legendary or even mythical. It was also a pity that normal people could not overcome this limitation. They could only be reduced to ordinary people who faded from public attention. Jean shared that he had already tried more than 100 times since he awakened this special class 3 years ago, however, he was never successful. Also, there was the rule in the other world, that prevented someone from teaming up with someone who was more than 10 levels above them. He wondered how it was possible for two people who were at most level 10 to defeat the first world boss. He advised me to leave, asked what would happen if he said it was possible. He told her he could help her get through the first world. Jan was surprised and hopeful. She grabbed him and asked him if he was serious. In his mind, she admitted that for 3 years, she had always dreamed of breaking that damn class limitation, and becoming a hunter revered by the masses. He wondered if that was possible. Chu told him to stop rambling and invited them to complete the world's first mission. The system had indicated that they had to meet certain requirements before challenging the world chief. In the first world, the requirements were as follows: eliminate a total of 1,000 monsters, and accumulate 10 silver coins through various activities and missions in the game. These were the only prerequisites from a safe distance. The recent battlefield watched him. The floor was littered with defeated monsters and coins scattered among the remains of defeat. He had demonstrated his ability by eliminating the 1,000 monsters with amazing speed, completing the missions and earning a considerable amount of coins. He turned around and said that they had already met the requirements and were ready to face the boss. She, still amazed at his abilities, replied that she was ready to move forward and confront the boss. Noticing her hesitation, he commented on her evident uncertainty, wondering if something was troubling her. She looked down, confused, and commented that ordinary people were not as strong as him, and that someone like him would not consider his request. Lo gave him a friendly smile, and mentioned that he was middle class, not exactly ordinary. She remained silent, trying to understand what he had just said. Then he looked at the Lu with bright eyes, admiring him, and showing his amazement at his words, looking away blushing, thinking that his comments sounded better in his head and that he should have avoided mentioning his wealth. At that moment, a system window appeared confirming that all the prerequisites had been met, and asking if they wanted to challenge the boss without wasting time. Then he hit the yes button in the system window. The system showed that the world leader's sector of the first world, the Demon Abyss, was being loaded. Suddenly, a yellow and white vortex appeared out of nowhere. The vortex expanded, growing in size to intensity as the spinning motion became more powerful. They both watched as the scene unfolded before them. At that moment, the system window reported that the door to the portal to the Demon Abyss was ready, and a massive door shone brightly in front of them. Losa turned to her with a confident smile. There, with a sense of anticipation, he asked her if she was ready to move forward. She, with a puzzled expression, nodded as she summoned her staff. They began to enter, with Then leading the way. A thick haze of dust enveloped the area, gradually revealing a dimly lit cavernous space. The system indicated the entrance to the First World Chief's sector. Demon Abyss stood in position with their staffs glowing brightly to reveal the dark cavern around them. The system set a 1-hour limit to defeat the boss, the Berserker Boar King. An hourglass appeared showing a timer with less than 1 hour remaining. Another reminder, it warned that if they didn't defeat the Berserker Boar King within the time limit, they would have to restart the world mission. He took several objects from his inventory, threw them gently in his direction, and commented that he should take them. She was surprised, but quickly extended her hands to catch the objects. She looked confused, not understanding his intention as she examined the articles. They were resurrection scrolls and instant recovery potions, each of great value. He inspected 2 other items and commented that although he was sure he could handle the boss, only unexpected factors could always arise, better be well prepared. Then he mentioned that he would use the armor he got from the fall, and the one he received from Li Jiao. He planned to equip his silver-armored scorpion with the Protector's heroic armor. As he began to summon his pet, his head slowly appeared, becoming visible. Little by little, his pet equipped himself with the armor and, with a powerful roar, it underwent a dramatic transformation. In a new form, the system displayed its new stats: Silver-Armored Scorpion, Level 8 Elite Defense Pet. A sudden and powerful aura emerged, immediately catching her attention with a confident attitude. Then he commented that the time had come and that the action was about to begin. A strong purple work headed toward them and they both prepared for the next battle. A demonic boar appeared. With 2 massive fangs and surrounded by a large purple aura of murderous intent, the huge demonic boar towered over the owl and they both looked at each other ready for the intense battle that was about to begin. The king roared furiously, his red eyes fixed on them, brimming with murderous intent to kill the system window. It showed the stats of the king: Level 10 Berserker Boar, 2-star physical boss, abilities, Fury, Savage Charge, and Deadly Stomp. She trembled with fear when she saw the boss muttering his name Fansuyan to calm herself down. Doubt seized her as she realized that they could not defeat him as a group, and now they faced the boss with just the 2 of them. She looked back at him with a worried expression, thinking that his repeated failures seemed to have turned to fear. Noticing his fear, he told him to stay on the bottom line and support him, or heal his pet. Then he ordered his pet to follow him. At the command, the pet roared in anticipation and fixed its gaze on the king. Suddenly, Fan's hers, she cried worriedly, wondering if she would be all right. With a confident gleam in his eyes, he mocked the boss and responded to his concern, saying that he was only there to take care of this little piggy. The king roared angrily at the mockery and, enraged by the comment, began his attack by charging directly at Luar. Then, with unwavering bravery, he launches into battle with his eyes sparkling with determination, unleashes his supreme fireball ability, and spears it against the Boar King. The spell impacts the target, causing a massive explosion of fire that envelops the area and deals 325 damage. As the fire explosion begins to settle, smoke and dust float in the air. The Boar King roars, showing his strength as smoke and sparks of fire swirl around him. She watches him with an indifferent expression and comments that, predictably, bosses have tougher defenses, making them difficult to break. The Boar King emits a fierce battle cry, and continues to attack mercilessly. Your pet is ready, preparing to block the assault. As the king roars, their confrontation erupts with intense force, but the boss's strength proves to be too much for his pet, pushing her backward under the immense pressure of the attack. Seeing his pet fight, he takes action with determination in his eyes, launches multiple fireballs at the boss. The fireballs surround the boss, exploding on impact. The boss roars in pain as the flames hit him from all sides. He thinks that as long as his pet continues to block, they should be able to handle the situation, but suddenly the boss activates his ability. The pet cannot withstand the boss's renewed strength and is violently thrown out of the way using Wild Charge. The boss cuts through with tremendous force and relentless determination, charging straight at. His pet is then forced out of the way, sliding painfully across the floor, as he struggles to regain his posture. As the dust settles around the aftermath of the attack, the king roars with a ferocious expression. Proving that he is not just a minor obstacle, but a formidable beast, Lo's eyes light up with determination as he comments that it won't be that easy. At the same time, your pet stabilizes, recovering its posture and preparing for the new fight. Seizing the moment, the boss unleashes an ability called Reckless Charge. With a deafening roar, it lunges towards him at incredible speed, with its head bowed and with relentless force. Fansu Yanglita, worried with a face full of fear, urgently demanding that he move. He realizes that this attack is not something he can easily block. The pet shows signs of fear upon hearing the roar of the boss charging towards her. He wonders what his teacher is planning, hoping he has a strategy to handle the situation. He senses his pet's fear there, with firm confidence, reassures her to hold her position. Despite the immense pressure of the boss's charge and the growing intensity around him, Luce stands firm, trusting his strategy. He keeps his gaze fixed on the boss, who approaches with the reflection in his eyes, showing how dangerously close the threat is. With death lurking directly in front of him, he yells at his pet to stand firm and refrain from acting. Despite the imminent danger, he knows that the right time to attack or defend is about to arrive. As the boss approaches only a few meters and ready to attack, he faces the onslaught with unwavering resolve. Ready for the shock, his eyes sparkle with confidence and a blue aura surrounds him, realizing that now is the perfect time to attack. The work turns into a concentrated attack. Ice forms around his staff, while his eyes light up white. He directs his ice skill with precision. The spell hits the boss. The ice quickly spreads across his face, dealing 325 damage, plus an additional 50 damage over time. With concern, she urgently points out that lower star bosses usually have 50% resistance to altered states, so the effects of ice will not last long. Meanwhile, he continues to explain, the boss roars furiously, breaking the ice pressure and sending ice fragments in all directions. She activates her defensive ability to protect herself in the midst of chaos, pointing out that lower star bosses typically have around 50% resistance to state effects, meaning the ice will only have a temporary impact. But Lo's plan is far from over. His pet launches from above, grabbing the boss and slamming him violently to the ground. The impact releases a burst of energy, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Even while Lo's pet pins the boss to the ground, the boss doesn't give up easily. Flames begin to emerge, slowly scorching and damaging the pet. Despite his firm grip in panic, he begins to channel another spell, determined not to lose his pet. He desperately orders her to heal the pet, knowing it is crucial to his survival. Upon hearing her order, she begins to cast her spell, the sweat running through her face, doubt clouding her mind as she works in a certain way. Her magic will be sufficient. Just then, the pet's health bar begins to regenerate as the flames in its body begin to subside. However, the boss shows no signs of giving up, yet determined to fight. His face was tense with concern as he pointed out that even with all his health, the armored scorpion wouldn't last much longer in its damage capacity. It simply couldn't make up the difference. Suddenly he doesn't finish channeling his spell and a huge ball of energy forms on the tip of his staff. He prepares for debris from the spell, flying around him, but he stands firm without showing signs of fear. He unleashes his attack, Dance of Fire and Ice, sending a swirling mix of flame and frost toward the boss. In response, the boss roars defiantly and prepares to face the oncoming onslaught. The chief plunges headlong into the attack without showing any hesitation. When the energy of the spell collides with him, an immense wall of ice rises, hitting the boss with overwhelming force. In his final moments, the boss emits a thunderous roar, unleashing his last burst of power with everything he has. He watches him closely, while the boss fights fiercely, putting up a desperate fight while still trapped in the powerful grip of the spell. A satisfied smile crosses Luo's face as he prepares for his final attack. Energy surges around him, preparing for the assault. He knows that even a 10.2 star level monster couldn't withstand the strong bombardment of a mythic class golden weapon. His attack launches him, and Chief Burakin is knocked down with one last roar before collapsing. She struggles to understand what she has just witnessed, as it is the first time she has seen someone use two abilities simultaneously. She's baffled by how she managed to do it. As the dust settles after the spell, Burakin stands once more but suddenly collapses, signaling the end of the battle with the boss. They both watch in silence. Just then, a blue energy surrounds something as he smiles, feeling the thrill of leveling up. The system displays a message congratulating him on defeating the 2-star physical boss Borking, followed by a message stating that he has obtained 12 silver coins and has risen to rank X16. Another message shows a skill book that sacrifices 10% defense for 5% attack, lasting 10 seconds. He considers selling the other items and keeping the skill book. An item window appears showing the Berserker's Magic Cloth level 10, 2 stars, gold rank with 320 plus health, 5 plus health and stamina, and a monkey damage negation ability, 4 for sorcerers. The last item window shows the Berserker's War Ring level 10, 2 stars, gold rank, with plus 70 physical attack, plus 5 strength and agility, and a recovery of 55 HP from Infigity damage restricted to knights. The description points out that it is a blood-stained ring, only fresh blood can satisfy his hunger. He decides to give the objects to his pet. Just then, Sahin begins to glow with a dark pink aura as the system announces congratulations for breaking the class restrictions of the disastrous sorcerer Bessel, of who put her in. Then another message appears, congratulations, you have evolved to Core 2 class, Epic Sorcerer. With tears of joy, she realizes that not only has she stripped herself of the disastrous sorcerer status, but she has also evolved into an epic core class. But just then they both look up as the system is about to show something. The system makes a global announcement, congratulations to Class 0 Changers and thanks for defeating the world boss. While Borking have completed the source of First World Demons. The crowd is surprised, wondering how they managed to complete the first world in less than noon and why it was just these two, questioning if anyone else will join. But just then someone recognizes the name and realizes that Sapien is known for having no combat skills and needing escorts. They're amazed that someone took her and defeated the boss alone. The scene changes to Isaiah with 2 portals visible. The system announces, congratulations on completing the first world Nightmare Fountain. The second world, besieged by the undead, is now active. He looks at the 2 portals, thinking that the red leads to the second world, while the blue is to return. He decides at first, address the issue of bringing food to the table. He heads for the blue portal as she yells, asking him to wait, asking where he's going. His intention is to collect his payment from his sister. With matters more important than attending to leaves her behind. She puts her hand to her face as she realizes that the person who has been helping her all this time is the mysterious class changer everyone talks about, known as Zero. The scene changes to the center of Enhai City. Focusing on the fan building, a lady looks out the window as someone approaches her, indicating that she has a phone call. He takes the call and receives the message that the job is done and the details to transfer the money will follow. Despite this, she doesn't seem impressed. Comment that you will first confirm the details before processing the payment. He returns the phone, pointing out that it's only past noon and that the person must be a scammer or something like that. Just then, a girl walks through the door with a big smile on her face, exclaiming that she has made it. He enthusiastically reveals that he has not only broken the Bessel status of Calamity, but has also evolved to Core Class 2. Epic Sorcerer. Her sister, unable to believe it, looked at her in disbelief. She smiles with happiness and joy, observing that reaching the epic level was unprecedented for the fan family, and wonders if they should have received a lot of help to achieve it. With a mischievous smile, they raised a finger indicating that only one person had taken her there. Her sister's expression changes to confusion as she sees the confirmation, trying to process the idea that it was just one person. Xian feels lost as she sees her sister, stunned and bewildered, sitting in front of the computer, absorbed in trying to verify the information. As he searches for details, Xian asks him if that person could be the hot topic of the moment. The rumored Zero Xian confirms it is. An online forum is full of messages about how Zero O has surpassed the king's records. Nolan has become a new power in the Shire, and as this mysterious figure has defeated the first world chief, the sister's expression darkens as she bites her fingernail. Reflecting on the news, he realizes that they have broken records and become the first group to reach the second world. With both on board, they will be able to improve their position in the country. She rises from her seat determined to call an executive meeting immediately. They need to recruit Cyrus to their pavilion, Misty Rain, by any means necessary to clear the second world before anyone else. Continuing with our story, our protagonist arrived at his apartment just in time to receive an important call. On the other end of the phone, a voice confirmed that his payment had been received, assuring him that any additional needs could be coordinated with the hospital. As he listened, he let out a sigh of relief, acknowledging that, at least for now, the financial arrangements seemed to be under control. He had trusted the medical services to care for his brother, and so far, there was no reason to doubt them. However, the calm did not last long. The hospital informed him that his brother, Apos' condition was more serious than initially estimated. They were going to need several months of observation with costs ranging between 40 and 50,000. Kant closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the situation on his shoulders. The figure rang in his head as he lamented that he had not accepted an offer made to him by another guild. Perhaps it would have been the best economic decision considering the upcoming medical expenses. Suddenly, his train of thought was interrupted by another call. He looked at the number on the screen, but he didn't recognize the sender. Despite the uncertainty, he answered the call. The scene shifted abruptly to a boardroom, where several members of a team listened dazedly to the conversation. On the other end of the line, a female voice asked if Khan would be interested in joining the guild. Rain Pavilion. Nebula was his Finya, the rise of the guild, who officially presented himself and offered him a base salary of 30,000 per month, plus bonuses, in addition to covering his insurance. As she detailed the offer, a smile appeared on Kant's face. The timing seemed perfect. Just when he needed it most, an opportunity arose that could solve all his financial problems. Without much thought, he accepted the deal, which unleashed the emotion visible on the faces of his daughter and sister. They were both delighted to have managed to recruit someone so valuable to their team. However, the joy was muted when Kanga added a condition. Although he was willing to participate in important events and fulfill his obligations, he demanded that his personal freedom not be restricted. Both sisters listened dazedly, aware that this might jeopardize the agreement. After all, how could a guild function if each member prioritized their freedom over common goals? One of the team members voiced their doubts aloud, arguing that personal freedom would undermine the purpose of the guild. Khan took this as a rejection, and seeing no viable solution, decided to hang up the call abruptly. Silence fell over the room as everyone looked at the head of the table for an answer. Attention now turned to Sukan, the CEO of the foundation. Some members of the team murmured about Khan's rudeness in cutting off the call, and others debated whether it was worth continuing to chase him with their eyes closed. Suchan wondered if they were really willing to recruit him at any cost. He opened his eyes confidently and explained that Khan was not just any player who was the class changer, who had broken a 100-year-old record by defeating the first world boss and surpassed him in less than a day. A prodigy unique in his generation, a talent they couldn't let slip, but his attitude left little to be desired. Just then, a voice interrupted the debate. The other sister, standing, firmly stated that Kanga was indeed different from the rest of the players. From his perspective, it was best to accept his terms, and then renegotiate once he was on the team. The other sister agreed, remembering that in the end Kant was not completely on his own, but had offered to participate in the activities of the guild. Back with Khan, his phone rang again. It was the same number. He looked at the screen reflecting that although the Misty Rain Pavilion was classified as the fifth guild in the Long Kingdom, his monthly payments and bonuses should be enough to cover his brother's medical expenses. He answered the call. Suhin already spoke, saying that they could accept his terms and asked him when he could visit the office to report. Kant, instead of accepting a physical visit, suggested working from home, arguing that being in the same time zone would have no problem logging in. From there, Suhinya appeared confused by the proposal while her sister simply wished Kant would accept it once and for all. Kant bluntly warned that if they did not agree, the deal would be cancelled. However, that was not the case. Suhinya, understanding the importance of ensuring this, accepted his terms and confirmed that they would proceed as agreed. Kant smiled at the news, hung up the phone and stretched out with the negotiations resolved, at least for a while. He wouldn't have to worry about income. It was time to make progress in the alternate world. He turned on the system and the screen showed him the options of available worlds: the first world, the Fountain of Nightmares, or the second world, a fortress besieged by the undead. Without hesitation, he chose the second option. In front of him, a red aura began to glow, forming a bright portal. He stepped forward and crossed the threshold into the new world. The system welcomed him to the second world, a fortress besieged by the undead. He was in the safe zone. Nordenton, looking around, could see a few stone buildings and distant mountains dimly lit by moonlight. He opened the system window to review second world missions. It was time to face the challenges ahead. Then he arrived in the town of Nordenton with his eyes on the missions that lay ahead. The system had shown him the key tasks: overcoming the secret kingdom, successfully repelling 3 waves of enemies, and finally facing the boss of the second world, to advance to the third world. I knew it wouldn't be easy. As he walked through the stone streets, his thoughts turned to the secret realm. To enter there he had to be at least level 15 and he still had to reach it. As for the second mission, all that remained was to wait for the waves of enemies to appear. His reflections were interrupted by a quick cry. The next wave is coming. It was Captain Norris. Clearly frustrated by the situation. The battle-hardened faceman complained about the bad timing the zombies were attacking and the lack of weapons to equip the soldiers, watched him from a prudent distance, not so much as the attention in this supposed safe place, never went away. The city of Norden might be a safe area, but that didn't prevent it from being besieged by waves of zombies periodically. Before he could retire in silence, Captain Oviobi, eyes full of hope, called for his help. They desperately needed materials to forge and maintain the weapons, and the best option was to collect them, west of Norden, where the old military depot stood. Light knew that this was one of the most difficult missions in the entire city, not only because of the time it required, but because of the enemies who inhabited the area. Level 11 to 20 zombies. The system took off the mission before resource collection, difficulty, 200 points. He had to collect fire, ice, and poison cores from the zombies in the devastated military base. The rewards were juicy: 100,000 experience, 50 silver coins, 9,000 energy, random 2-star gear, and a skill book or pedigree. He smiled at him excitedly, knowing that with that amount of experience he could jump several levels and possibly advance faster than expected. "Leave it to me," he told the captain confidently. The captain, relieved to see that someone was accepting the challenge, gave him the task with a grateful look. The scene shifted to the perimeter of Norden, a former military base now consumed by flames and chaos. The place was crawling with zombies. Their warped, charred bodies wandered through the ruins, grotesque growls. One of them, attracted by the sound of footsteps, turned his head abruptly, noticing the presence of an intruder. He was the one advancing with his cane in hand and his pet ready at his side. With a spark of emotion in his eyes, he gave the order to attack. A burst of flaming energy shot out from his staff, impacting the first zombie with 266 damage. However, the monster, being resistant to fire, reduced the impact by half. Luo clicked his tongue. "Damn tough zombies," thought another much faster zombie, roared angrily when he saw his injured companion and charged towards the front straight towards the next pet. The monster struck hard, but the pet responded with an immediate attack. The result was disappointing, just 1 point of damage. Lu looked at the scene in frustration, realizing that these zombies would not be easy to defeat with conventional attacks. However, Luo was not a rookie, he knew it was time to change strategy. He closed his eyes for a moment and began concentrating blue energy into the palm of his hand. When he opened them again, his pupils glowed brightly. With a celestial glow, his staff rose surrounded by a powerful blue now, which enveloped his body. The power he had summoned was formidable, and he was determined to see how long those zombies could hold out. The onslaught that was about to unleash the air around him vibrated with pure power, and the zombies, still unaware of the impending danger, continued to advance towards him. He smiled at it, ready to face the oncoming wave. "I knew this battle would be tough, but the reward in the end would make every second worth it. It's time to start the real games," he muttered to himself as the energy around him unleashed like an unstoppable torrent. He watched as his pet lunged at the zombie with a powerful roar, catching it with its sharp claws and leaving the enemy immobilized. The zombie tried to free himself, growling angrily, but the pet's strength was too much for him. Meanwhile, he reflected on the equipment that had provided his companion A-rank protective abilities: the Berserker's level 8 War Ring, the level 8 boar skin boots, and the level 5 greaves of heroes. With all those items, his pet, an elite armored scorpion, had the total advantage against the fire zombies. With a satisfied smile, he watched as his pet destroyed the zombies one-to-one, who were crouching uselessly. However, although the spectacle was effective, there was something disturbing about seeing the undead being dismembered only to return later, knowing that their nature would prevent them from dying at all. Determined not to waste any more time, he began channeling his ice ability surrounded by a blue energy that pulsed strongly. As his pet kept another zombie at bay, he cast the spell, freezing the enemy in a block of ice. The once burning zombie was trapped and motionless, now just a frozen statue. The system reported success, you killed the fire zombie. Level 11, X plus 50, power plus 110,000. Then he smiled in satisfaction. Now he understood how to deal with these monsters. However, after tossing a few coins into the air and seeing only one miserable bronze coin fall, he realized that the reward rate left much to be desired. Still, he's seen a bunch of zombies with determination. He attacked them relentlessly, leaving a trail of ice in his wake. The system was being updated, 5 gold coins earned, 50 expo obtained, you go up to level 9 plus 1,000 energy, you go up to level 10, you get a fire core, you go up to level 11. The assault was over, but when he checked his inventory he noticed that he only had 50 fire cores. He needed many more to complete the mission, and with such a low drop rate, it seemed like a titanic task. Sighing, Luz ran his hand over the back of his neck, feeling hunger begin to take hold of him. Despite being immersed in a virtual world, his real body still had basic needs, and right now he called it food. He decided it was a good time to disconnect, eat something, and continue later. However, just as he was about to exit the game, a thunderous roar startled him with his eyes wide open. He searched for the source of the noise until he saw a gigantic portal materialize, surrounded by red and blue energies that swirled violently. He felt an overwhelming pressure emanating from the door and knew in that instant who was responsible for such an appearance: the Lord of the Monsters. With the portal open, a gigantic paw swept through the threshold, crushing the floor with brutal force. In front of the UA appeared a colossal creature with 2 huge horns, bright red eyes, a muscular body, and beaks protruding from its shoulders. The monster let out a deafening roar as the system identified it. Monster Lord, Zombie, Eye Sovereign, Flaming level 14, Magic type. Light smiled greedily when he saw the boss. He knew that these high-level monsters always dropped valuable rewards, whether it was a rare equipment or a skill book, and his mind was already projecting the possible gains. Without thinking twice, he summoned his battle-ready staff. The monster, upon noticing Luo's change in attitude, roared again, this time with a clear warning: if he dared to approach, he would destroy him. However, Lu was not willing to back down. Confident, he stood firm, but the monster, seeing that his warnings had no effect, decided to attack. First he hit the ground hard, unleashing a blast of ice straight at Luo. Before he could react, ice wrapped around his legs, immobilizing him. Luz's confidence crumbled instantly, replaced by a growing sense of panic. The monster, aware of its advantage, threw several ice stakes in succession. Unable to move, Luz could only receive the attacks. You have taken damage from the sovereign zombie with flaming eyes. You have lost 352 health points. The impact knocked him back several yards. As he tried to catch his breath, he realized that he had made a mistake. Underestimating the enemy, he needed to concentrate if he wanted to get out alive. He quickly started channeling his fire and ice abilities, but when he threw them at the boss, the damage was disappointing, only 168 points. The monster, confused, watched the feebly effective attack, wondering why it had been so insignificant. Lu, terrified, understood then that the visuals of fire and ice were his perfect counterpart. His abilities weren't powerful enough to make a significant impact. Just as the monster fixed his gaze on his pet, he felt a growing concern. The monster lord, cunning, recognized that the pet was the key to defense and then, without hesitation, began to attack the creature with ice abilities. The blows hit the pet hard and then, unable to do anything about it, he watched in horror as the damage quickly piled up. Then he watched helplessly as the monster channeled another ability. Blue energy pooled in his hands and a wicked smile spread across his face. With a quick gesture, the monster unleashed a powerful blast of ice hitting its pet. Over and over again. The silver scorpion roared in pain before collapsing. Defeated. The system notified the silver-armored scorpion. The waiting time to revive has appeared. 3 hours penalty, -1 level, and -10 loyalty. However, thanks to the necromancer effect, the time was reduced to 1 hour and all penalties were cancelled. Before he could react, the monster began preparing another attack without any preparation. Elo could only watch the icy energy build up, knowing that his greed had led him to this situation. As he braced himself for the worst, he reflected on how different this boss was compared to the enemies he had faced in the first world. Just as the monster was about to launch its attack, purple lightning fell from the sky, hitting the monster and dealing them 138 points of damage. The creature, stunned, stopped its attack, turned its head and saw Siwon firm and determined to help. With a sarcastic smile she said, "She's the Pay Lady." Siwon, visibly upset, shouted at him, "I will take care of crowd control. You focus and attack if you want to survive." Her words shook him. He refocused, and, with renewed confidence, began to channel his ice attack. Once again, the blue energy enveloped him and launched the direct attack on the monster. Ice covered parts of the creature's body, but he is alone, he laughed, clearly unflinched by the weak blows. Without wasting any time, he unleashed his strongest attack, a great fireball. The monster roared angrily, believing the attack would be just as futile. However, as the fireball surrounded him, something changed in his expression. She looked at Si Johan, hoping he could replicate his earlier feat and turn the situation around. Suddenly, if Johan screamed beam of light, rays of purple energy began to concentrate on the tip of his cane. As the energy intensified, Light's fire and ice attacks merged with his own. The three attacks combined into a devastating assault that struck the monster, forcing it to fall to the ground with a roar of pain. Overwhelmed by the power of the combination, the astonished watched how the attacks had intertwined perfectly. He couldn't believe the precision and power of the forbidden sorcerer class, which if John handled, he had underestimated his power, and now he clearly saw him with a concentrated look and his eyes shining with determination, who analyzed all his abilities by launching a direct attack to the monster's heart. The creature let out a scream of anger, and turned quickly toward the witch, realizing that she was the true source of his pain, but it was too late. The witch joined the fight full on, amplifying Lua's power with her own magic. In a matter of seconds, the monster lord was caught in a whirlwind of ice, fire, and purple energy that seemed to come from another world. What happened next was a colossal explosion, so loud it shook the entire battlefield. When the explosion finally dissipated and the dust began to settle, the monster lord's corpse lay before them, a stark evidence of the victory they had achieved through effort. The calm that followed was broken by the voice of the system that coldly announced, "Congratulations Loai, your professional has defeated the boss. Experience points plus 80% for the duo, plus 20% for the last energy of the final blow, reward 4,000. Then he put his staff away as the objects floated around him, as if victory itself celebrated him from a distance. The witch, with a faint smile, was looking at him, clearly impressed. However, he couldn't stop thinking about those 4,000 and how they should divide the reward. She shyly waved her hands, indicating that there was no need to divide anything. She explained that she was already on a mission and that by chance she had met him, adding that he had helped her through the first world and that she never had a chance to thank him properly. "You've obviously confused him." She remembered that the witch's sister had already paid for her help on the last mission. However, the witch clarified that although her sister paid, she wanted to thank him personally. With a smile he approached and held out his hand, formally introducing himself as Suginyon. Lua couldn't help but feel intrigued by her. When they shook hands, they both smiled, feeling a kind of connection that went beyond words. Lua, always practical, suggested that they team up to hunt more monsters, since they were in the same guild and working on the same missions with more people. It would be much more efficient. "Curious? I'm asking you about your professional skills." Suginyon's eyes sparkled with excitement as he explained that all of his control abilities became immobilizing effects, prolonging the control time by 30%. In addition, it added an extra 1 second of immobilization and reduced all of his reuse times by 30%. She smiled at him, understanding now why his control over the battlefield was so impressive. With his help, the monster house would be a piece of cake. As Loa began to walk away, Suginyon, with a mixture of curiosity and admiration, asked her where she was going. He replied that he needed to return to the city of Natim for a while, suggesting that they meet in 10 minutes to continue getting married. She, excited and with a hand on her chest, watched him as he walked away, remembering the promise she had made to herself, to marry whoever broke her curse of calamity. She quickly shook her head in shame at the idea, telling herself it was ridiculous to even think about it. Once in the safe zone, he began examining the monster lord's loot. There was a 3-piece set and a skill book. He thought about selling 1-star's equipment and keeping the rest to improve his own power. One object in particular caught his attention. The 2-star fast movement fire and ice boots were perfect for tamers, offering 55+ physical defense, 5+0 magic defense, and 1+0 agility, as well as a fast movement effect that increased agility by 10 points for 5 seconds when hitting an enemy. Okay. Not bad, he thought as he continued to check his equipment. He knew he needed more attack power, so he opened the skills menu and began the refinement process. The system showed Flame Stand Missile. Summons 3 fire missiles that hit the enemy every one, dealing 110% magic damage. Cost, 70 mana, 5-second cooldown. Once the process was complete, he closed the menu and watched his hands still glowing with accumulated energy. He smiled to himself, knowing that with this new monster's ability, he probably couldn't even touch him. Emotion invaded her, but before she could fully enjoy it, a notification appeared in her vision. It was an invitation from his genius to join his group. He accepted the invitation. Without thinking twice, he was already equipped with new skills and ready for more adventures. He returned to the battlefield, where a fire zombie was being bombarded with attacks. Visible damage came from both burn and ice effects, along with a good dose of critical hits. In a matter of seconds, a massive fire enveloped the zombie, defeating him on the spot. Sugenyon, surprised, exclaimed that she had finished him off with the zombie in one blow. He, walking calmly, turned to her and commented, "You're not doing it badly either, and you have impressive control and awareness, and that team of yours is like otherworldly." She blushed and admitted that all her equipment had been given to her by her sister, who had told her it was perfect for a forbidden wizard. Lon couldn't help thinking how lucky she was to have those resources. How lucky are some, he thought, knowing that everything his genion had was of the best quality. But then she asked a question that took him by surprise. "You're not hiding the visual effects of your equipment, are you? Because your attack is incredibly high, do you have that divine equipment or what?" He smiled mischievously at him and replied, "It's not the team, I'm a mythical class professional." She stared at him incredulously. "I don't believe you," he said. "When a mythic class pro wakes up there are always anomalies, and this year there have been none." "They were not born professionals of mythical class," he has maintained his smile. Naughty suggested that they leave it at that, thinking to himself that her class hadn't woken up in the usual way, but she didn't need to know those details. Changing the subject, he opened the quest menu and noticed that they had already collected all the fire and ice zombie cores. All that remained was to hunt down the toxic zombies to complete the mission. With determination, he proposed that they go directly to the nest of toxic zombies. Suddenly, a red notice appeared above their heads. It was a message from the guild that said, "Genjupe Vilgen General to all members. This is a major operation. Everyone needs to meet at Zombie City in 10 minutes. Anyone who is absent without justification will be expelled from Genjupe Vilgen." Suginyo looked up and commented that Chengen was doing his thing again, giving no explanations, but threatening everyone. "Have you intrigued him?" he asked who Chengon was, noticing that he had an imposing presence. She explained that Chengon was the head of the Nice City branch of the Virgin Genjupe. His father and uncle, his Chen of the family, his were lifelong friends, and his uncle had been the one who had fixed his position. He nodded, understanding the connection and suggesting that since it was a guild operation, they should go. The scene shifted to show a purple monster with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth roaring in fury. He used an ability by bringing both hands together and hitting the ground with all his strength. The impact was devastating, causing severe damage and sending players flying while screaming in pain. Just as the players were hurled into the air, a shower of arrows began to fall on them, adding to the chaos. The show was a real battlefield. A guild fought fiercely against the powerful monster, trying to resist its devastating attacks. At the same time, another guild was shooting arrows and spells from a distance, adding to the confusion and disorder. Players dodged the monster's attacks, and their enemies' offensives. Wounds piled up and morale began to plummet. It was clear that the guild he was losing was from the same group that had sent the distress message. Their fight against the opposing group underscored the urgency of their situation as they fought desperately to maintain their position and protect their members. The leader of the assault group, furious and desperate, struggled to support his partner, shouting that Liu Zhao had interrupted his fight just when they had discovered the boss first. Frustration was in the air as he tried to get his team together. Liu Zhao, for his part, remained impassive, ordering with fierce intensity. He believed that power was what really mattered, and ordered his allies to eliminate their opponents without hesitation. But in the midst of that chaos, an ability appeared over Liu Zhao's group and a rain of fireballs fell from the sky, surprising everyone. A fireball impacted the back of a member of the group, defeating him. Instantly panic seized the Liu Zhao as he screamed in fear, cursing anyone who dared to interrupt him. When the dust settled after the fire attacks, he emerged from the cloud, holding his cane over his shoulder and smiling confidently. In a mocking tone he addressed Lu Zhu, reminding him that garbage always finds its way back, pointing out that he had learned nothing from his last encounter in the first world with the bosses. With a sarcastic smile, he promised to remind her of what had happened. The tension in the atmosphere became palpable, as Belyuyov looked ready for another confrontation. The fate of the guilds hung in the balance, and the battle was far from over.